Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. Buckle up, as it's a long one, and of course, listen to the end of the story to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. Me, 27 female, and my sister, 29 female, have been fighting recently for something that I thought got resolved a long time ago. A couple months ago, I married my husband, Greg, 29 male, after being together for 4 years. We met each other working at the same office, and I developed this huge crush on him. I was pretty sure he was into me too, so I decided to bring it up to my sister, Alicia. Alicia and Greg had dated in middle school when they were both 13-ish, and because it had been so long and at such a young age, I didn't think there would be an issue. But I still wanted to check. I didn't want to accidentally start dating some long-lost love of her life or something, so I thought I would clear the air by asking. She seemed a bit surprised because I didn't think she was expecting to hear about her middle school ex-boyfriend randomly so many years later. But after we talked for a bit, she said she didn't really care. So I thought, cool, I have the go-ahead. I thanked her and moved on with things, and a little while later, me and Greg got together. It's never seemed to be an issue before recently. We hit all the milestones, and she seemed to be happy for us. When he met my family again, they were a bit surprised, but things were fine. My sister was even one of my bridesmaids and seemed happy for me the entire time. Like, I haven't really thought of them dating in forever because it no longer seems relevant. I mean, she has a husband at this point, so it doesn't seem like a middle school boyfriend would be something to dwell on. We were with my family this Christmas, and things were going just as fine as they usually are, until my sister started handing out the presents she had gotten. Now, we don't get each other presents every year, and people in my family typically aren't buying special presents for people they're not close to. So the in-laws don't get screwed or anything because they didn't buy every individual cousin a gift. But during my wedding planning, she said she wanted to get me something special for my first Christmas as a married woman, so it took me off guard. I looked sort of confused for a second, but I didn't want to be a bee on Christmas, so I just smiled and watched everyone open their gifts. Lots of circumstances could cause someone to not be able to get a gift, so it was fine. But after she finished handing things out, she looked at me and said I wasn't getting anything because I had taken enough. I asked her what she meant because, And she said I didn't have to be so weird to plot to take Greg from her. I'll admit I had a crush on him when I was 11, but I didn't plan my life around dating him one day. I grabbed her and pulled her into the other room, and we started yelling at each other. I definitely said some nasty things because if she had an issue, why wouldn't she bring that up when I directly asked her? We both wound up leaving my parents' house early, and her husband seemed super pissed. My mom texted me that she was disappointed we fought on Christmas, which yeah, I get, but it's not like I did it intentionally. She's telling whatever family members will listen about how I stole her boyfriend, and so they're mad at me. And I don't feel like I could be the a-hole, but I also can't tell. Greg's super pissed because she's been trying to message him about this, and he doesn't get why this is such an issue. I've tried to speak with her a couple times, and I brought up how I asked her already for permission, but she says I took her off guard. So, am I the a-hole? OP is definitely not in the wrong here. Even asking her if it was okay to start dating Greg was kind of overcautious, given they dated when they were children, and she's married to someone else. I think OP's sister is probably unhappy in her marriage and is wishing she would have ended up with Greg since she sees how happy OP is with him. What do you think, guys? And now let's hear the community's opinion. I'm Keely W. says, wait, your sister is 29 and she's accusing you of stealing someone she dated briefly at 13? Despite the fact that she'd clearly moved on, married someone else, and had given you the go-ahead? Not the a-hole. Your sister, however, needs therapy. Curious One says, not the a-hole. Your sister has issues. Middle school exes is in the safe zone for dating, and she herself cleared it. Saw Whetmall says, not the a-hole. Oh, good God. Does Sis's husband know that Sis is mad about this? You had no way until just now that Sis was angry. I would not want to be in her husband's shoes right now. Update. Things are pretty tense right now in my family, but less people are mad at me now. A lot of you were correct about the marriage issues between my sister and her husband. The other night, my mom invited me over to talk about what was happening. First, she apologized for telling me she was disappointed. Her and my dad were just upset there was drama on Christmas. I apologized for picking the fight during the gift exchange because I know I definitely could have waited until later. Her and my sister have been talking a lot the past couple of days. I've yet to talk to her in person. Alicia told my mom that her husband, Chris, had told Alicia that I had been flirting with him and had seduced him. I would never ducking do that. So this was a pretty big shock to hear. He had never been weird to me, so I had always been cordial, but I'm in no way attracted to him. She had told my mom a couple months back that Chris was interested in another woman, but never said who. They had been going to couples counseling to help, and Alicia told my mom it had been helping. We're not sure what caused her to snap at Christmas specifically, since beforehand, she told my mom things were getting better. My mom had called her the night after we fought, and that's when my sister told her that I was the person Chris had been talking about. I just don't get why he'd pretend we had been flirting, or why she'd even believe it. I've always been open about Greg, and I can't even think of the last time I've spoken to Chris without someone else present. I guess he wanted to avoid responsibility or something, but he didn't have to make that my issue. But the stealing comment she made towards me was because I guess she saw it once as a coincidence, two as a pattern, and thought I was some evil bee who wanted every guy she had. When my mom called me over, she didn't think I was doing anything with Chris, but she still asked to make sure, which really hurt to be honest. It's not like I can prove I'm not doing something, but she believes me at least. Since we've talked, she's been doing damage control on all the relatives, who my sister was telling I was stealing her husband. This whole thing would have been easier if she had just talked to me about it. But Mom said she would try to talk to Alicia some more to convince her I'm not trying to steal her husband. Greg's pissed. He's pissed at my whole family pretty much, but mostly Alicia and Chris. She texted Greg yesterday, "My name only loves you because you were mine." So I guess she doesn't believe my mom. He blocked her after that. I don't know. I was hoping the reasoning would have been something else. I'm not sure what to do. I don't know if my relationship with her can come back from this, and I refuse to be anywhere near Chris. 10 years ago, my fiance left me, 38 male, a few weeks before our wedding. We grew up in a small town. We were friendly, went to the same school, but we never were in the same clique. She was one of the popular kids, and I wasn't. A few years after college, I moved back home when my dad got sick. I found a job in my field about 45 minutes away from home. I would help take my dad to his chemo appointments. It was during one of those appointments I ran into X. She now worked at the hospital. One day while waiting, I asked her out. It turned out we shared a lot of the same interests. It seemed like our relationship was going great. About a year or so into dating, X and I moved to a rented house together. The following year, I proposed. We began looking for a house. X always wanted to live in her grandparents' house on the lake near our town. Her family was forced to sell house when her grandparents died because of an inheritance dispute. 6 months before our wedding, a chance event happened. The couple who bought her grandparents' lake house had grown tired of our snowy winters. It took some work and nearly all of my savings, but I was able to buy her dream house. It was going to be my surprise wedding present, so I didn't dare tell her or anyone in the family my plans. A month before our wedding, X and her friends went to Miami for her bachelorette party. I'm not sure all of what happened there. Part of me doesn't really want to know. But I do know her high school boyfriend was there. When she got back from the trip, she broke down and confessed she was afraid to get married and wanted to call it off. It was a mess. She later moved to Florida and eventually married her high school boyfriend. I ended up moving back to the city for an amazing job. In the meantime, I still had the lake house. With the help of my mom and dad, we started to fix up the lake house. It took a few years. My mom and dad would look after the contractors while I was in the city. Having the house was perfect when everything locked down. I was able to escape the city and work remotely from the lake house. I now live here full-time and work remotely. This summer, we had 4th of July at the lake house. My sister-in-law used photos from the lake this summer in her Christmas card. One of those cards made it to X's cousin. The cousin recognized the house. The Saturday before New Year's, X's mother and sister were at my front door. After pleasantries and answering their initial questions, they made an offer to buy it. I refused. They were not happy. A few days later, I got a long text from X. This was the first time in about 9 years she had talked to me. She called me a jerk for keeping this from her. Her family is blaming her for losing the house again. She then asked me to sell. I still have no intention to sell. Now her and her family are complaining on social media that this is some sort of revenge. Am I the a-hole? Wow, The audacity of people. I would personally let them know that it was supposed to be the wedding gift to OP's fiance. That will definitely make them feel bad, especially OP's ex. It's like killing her with kindness. If it was so important for her family to get it back, they should have paid closer attention to it if it was on the market. OP put tons of work and money into this house. He deserves it. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Not your average chemist says. Not the a-hole. Your intention was to surprise your ex with the house at the wedding. If you had called off the wedding, I'd reconsider my judgment. But she is the reason why she doesn't have access to that house. On top of that, you've made the house your own. Enjoy it. C. Majuscula says. Not the a-hole. Why would you tell the woman who dumped you before the wedding anything? Your purchases are none of her business, and her family has some ducking audacity to show up on your doorstep. Nana Liani says. Not the a-hole. So after more than 10 years and a presumably expensive renovation, your ex and her family want the lake house back. What a lot of gall they have. Anytime in the last 10 years, any of them could have tracked down the owner, you, from the county tax records, and made an offer. They can eat their sour grapes and get lost. I, 17 female, had taken my college entrance exam this year for the first time. The score determines which college you get into. My older sister, 20 female, has been retaking hers for the last 3 years in hopes of getting into med school, but she ended up getting the same score each year, and yet decided to retake it again this year. I would be lying to say that didn't annoy me a bit, since my parents were focused more on my sister because, well, she was in a sense of study freak. I don't mean that in an offensive manner, it's just how she's like. But as they put it, you can handle yourself, you're mature, but she could get a bit troublesome. I don't know if that was meant to be reassuring, cause all I felt was like I was facing all my crap on my own, and I didn't want that. I wanted support. Fast forward to the exam. Things were good, and then came the result. You check your results online, and if you're still a student and do pass, the school would hold a graduation ceremony the same night. I got an 1820, which meant I could easily get into, well, any college I'll apply to. Sister, on the other hand, got, for the 4th time, the same score, and she started sobbing, and it did hurt me to see her like that. I tried to reassure her, but she wouldn't take it, and acted like I was the reason she got the said score. That night, we got ready for my graduation, and as we were about to leave, my sister locked herself in her room and wouldn't answer to anybody. We were running late, so my parents asked me to walk to the school, and they'll follow me soon after with her. I ended up walking in heels to school at like 7 or 8 p.m., and I was already feeling like crap as it was. Got there, went on stage, they called my name, got my certificate. People were taking pictures and celebrating with their families, and I was just there on the side while my friends were surrounded by their loved ones. Ended up being dropped off by one of their parents. Yet at home, they acted like everything was normal, asking me how it went and such. Like they didn't just ditch me. My sister was also there. Turns out she did get out a couple of hours later and needed to talk, so they had to be there for her. When I started crying and expressing how I felt, they looked at me like I grew a second head and asked for me to chill and take things slow and for me to try and put myself in her shoes, and that my reaction is so insensitive. I felt like I was gaslit. Did I overreact? She always does this, whether that's for attention or for whatever reason. For all I know, she isn't S or a harm to herself, so why would she come before me? Well, looks like it's obvious who is the favorite child in the family. OP's parents acted wrong in this situation, and sister is just a very selfish person. I understand it sucks for OP's sister, but she should think about others as well. AlBG Shaq says, I'm really sorry about your graduation. I know how that feels, and it really hurts. I was alone at mine as well because my mother needed the attention more than me. She ran away that morning, and everyone spent the whole time looking for her. She's a total narcissist. Sounds like you have one in your family as well. Miss Tiffany says, congratulations on your exam and graduation. Your parents are definitely gaslighting you, and it's good that you see it as it is. Apply for the college that you want, and count down the days until you leave that environment. Let your sister be jealous from a distance. Think Shirt says, I'm so sorry. Yeah, that's not cool at all. Don't put up with bad behavior from them. Call them out. When I got engaged, I, 24 female, asked my mom if she would walk me down the aisle and have a mother-daughter dance during my reception. She enthusiastically said yes. We told my stepdad, and he said he was happy for my mom. He and my mom started dating when I was 6. He moved in when I was 9, and they married when I was 10. When my mom first started dating him, she sat me down and told me he wasn't ever going to replace Dad, and that if he ever pressured me to do something I was uncomfortable with, like call him Dad, I could tell her, and she would nip it in the bud. She made it clear our relationship didn't have to fit anyone else's mold, and she reminded me of this again when he moved in and when they got married. She also asked for my feelings on things every step of the way, and I liked my stepdad and cared about him, so it was easy to agree to him moving in and to them getting married. I never called him Dad or really thought of him as a dad figure. He was something different, and it wasn't nothing, but I'm not sure I would have a word to describe it. But we got along great. It was just never the same as my relationship with my mom. I always dreamed of Mom walking me down the aisle and dancing with me at my wedding. She was there and always put me first, and we're our own team. But she also loved and never let him be just a piece of history I never knew anything about. I always appreciated that, and her efforts to keep me involved in his family, or the good parts anyway. A few weeks ago, my stepdad's parents texted me with a weird comment about father of the brides needing a little extra detail to go into their wedding suit. It came out of nowhere, and I didn't reply because I honestly had no idea what it was really about. A few days after that, I saw them, and they asked why he wasn't in rehearsal for our father-daughter dance. I told them there was nothing to rehearse, and Mom was dancing with me. I said my stepdad and I would dance at a different point on the day. They said father of the bride is the dance, not mother of the bride. I told them he wasn't going to have that traditional role. Another day, then they mentioned it to me, and I asked them why they kept bringing it up. They said I should be ashamed, and I humiliated my stepdad, and he was so upset that he went to them. I spoke to my stepdad, and he confirmed he went to his parents with the hope I would see the error of my ways, and he didn't want to piss off Mom by saying something directly. But he told me he deserved to be father of the bride, and not stepfather of the bride. I told my mom what he did, and she was furious. Of course, my stepdad was upset with me, but his parents were pissed, and told me I ran to my mommy like a little girl instead of a woman. Am I the a-hole? Kiwi Sparkle says, not the a-hole. Your response should have been, what did they think of their son running to his parents like a little boy, rather than dealing with it like a man? Penelope 2023 says, they're mad you ran to mommy? Check my notes. He ran to his family to complain about you. You had every right to go to your mom. He is her problem. He can be sad, but it is your wedding. His role is what you want. He needs to grow up and not run to his family that his stepdaughter was mean to him. If he wanted a different role, he should have talked to you directly about it. Heloise Morris says, not the a-hole. I'm sure your mother was less than pleased with this little pressure campaign by your stepfather and his minions, but true to her word, when she was made aware, she nipped it in the bud. Congratulations, and have a wonderful wedding and happy marriage.